Yeah, I think there's a couple that have really caught my eye this season. Obviously, people will be aware of Trey Ogunsui. He's just picked up an injury at the moment, but he came on in the FA Cup game at the Stadium of Light against Stoke. He's done really well for the under-21s. He can play off the right through the middle. He's just got sort of everything you'd want from a young striker, and he's got a way to develop and a way to grow. He's been fantastic, to be honest. But then Finn Geragusian behind him as well, who's 17. He was playing like under 16s football last season, and he's been playing for the under 18s this season as well as the 21s, and he's just looked like amazing. Like sometimes I think you see youth football and it can be, not all of the time, it can be very passive and very technical. And I'm not saying Garagusian isn't technical because he is, but he just goes after games. Like his desire and his work rate and his pace for a big lad as well. I think he's like 6'2" already. Really, really impressed by him. I'm not saying you're going to see him like in the first team next week or anything, but I think he's definitely one to keep an eye on. Sunderland fans will be fairly familiar with Harrison Jones now. I think he's played 3 times for the first team in the Cups, and he made his league debut off the bench against Sheffield Wednesday. Excuse me. But he's a really good technical player, can play in a multitude of positions. He can play as an 8. He could probably play as a 6 as well, can definitely play as a 10. And against Leeds United, he actually played as a false 9. He got an assist and a goal, and he just makes things happen. He's a boyhood Sunderland fan as well, which always helps. It's his dream to play for Sunderland, and he's doing that alongside his brother Jaden Jones as well in the middle, who's not a bad player at all, actually. Another one that's really impressed us in recent weeks, actually, and I've watched him for a long time, but I'm really starting to appreciate him now, is Jensen Jones. So there's Harrison Jones, Jaden Jones, who are brothers, and then there's Jensen Jones. And that's always very difficult, especially when the three of them were named on the same team sheet against Leeds. But Jensen Jones can play left back, right back. He's played centre midfield. And then against Leeds, he also went to left wing and got an assist as well. So he's just so ridiculously technical that he can play in all of these different positions, which is obviously really, really handy to have. He's really, really come on in recent weeks, I would say. Again, probably has a little bit of growing to do. Physicality of his game probably needs to be improved on, but he's a top prospect. And Ollie Bainbridge as well, who got a little bit of first team experience with Kilmarnock earlier on in the season, played at Celtic Park. I think he played 6 or 7 times up there before coming back in January. He can play left back, right back, centre back. He was a big player when the under 21s got the Premier League playoff final against Tottenham. They ended up losing, but he's a really, really good handy player. A little bit like Sirkin, I think, in a little way. They both wear Alice bands at times, so that's probably why. But honestly, it's so fun to watch the under 21s because they are just full of talent. Graham Murphy does a great job. Luke Bell, actually, the centre back, he's really come on. He's a good player. And then there's others as well, like Zach Johnson's out on loan at Notts County as well. I really, really, really like him. Tom Lavery's a good player. Ben Crompton's out on loan. So there's so much talent there. But I think for me, the standout in recent weeks has been Finn Garagusian because he's just been this like phenomenon. In terms of just like contributing and imprinting his will on a game, he's doing it like way beyond his years, and he's got like time to grow and time to learn, and it's very, very impressive. And not really doing anything like too flashy either, just doing the basics really well, just getting the ball, running at players, being in the right place, being on the end of it, and can play in a couple of positions across the forward line. So yeah, it's nice to watch these youngsters come through. It really is.
Absolutely. I think the Geragusian, and to be fair, I think you could say pretty much the same thing about Ogunsui. You're always hesitant to hype up these young players too much at such a sort of formative time in their career because you don't want to apply that pressure. And obviously, I do think there is an awful lot of merit to allowing them to develop sort of away from the limelight and almost away from fan attention to a certain extent so that they can really, reach their full potential without having to deal with the sort of the surrounding, the limelight really. But like, I do think that where Sunderland differ from most clubs and why it's perhaps that little bit more exciting is because, there is such a reliance on youth and, we're talking about Geragusian, he's 17 now. He's only a couple of years younger than Eliza Mayenda. You know, like,
and he's the same age as Chris Rigg. That's the mental thing.
Exactly. We've already seen it with, you know, in very recent times, Chris Rigg, Tommy Watson, these young academy lads who have made such an impact at youth level that they've almost forced their way into being in a position where they have to be under consideration for the first team, because you can't ignore them any longer. And that's why, you know, with the Geragusian, you kind of want to take your foot off the gas a little bit, and you want to be a little bit realistic about it. But at the same time, it's hard to ignore what you're seeing on a weekly basis. And if he's going to keep on influencing matches in the way that he is, similar thing with Ogunsui, if he's going to keep on scoring goals in the manner that he has this season, it is going to get to a point where, you know, it might not be this year, it might not be next year, but we are going to get to a point, presumably sooner rather than later, where they are knocking on the door of that first team squad. And like I say, that's probably where Sunderland differs a little bit from a lot of the clubs around them, but it does make for a really exciting prospect, I think.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention Matty Young as well, who's probably one of the best young goalkeepers in the country, out on loan at Salford. I think he's probably seen as like the natural long-term successor to Anthony Patterson one day. I'm not trying to sell Anthony Patterson off early or anything like that, but yeah, the depth of talent at Sunderland is ridiculous, and it's really nice to see that pathway utilised. As you mentioned, I think the ownership have done an absolutely tremendous job with the academy. It's very vibrant. Credit to Graham Murty as well, who just drives standards in that group. You've got Finn Lynch as well running the under-18s alongside his partner in coaching crime, whose name I've forgot, Jordan Moore, that's it. The academy manager, Robin Nichols, it's such a vibrant space, I think, for those youngsters. And, you know, Sunderland do still lose some of their young talent. It does happen. Mason Kocher, Toby Bell, all of, you know, we won't see success across the board all of the time, but contrast it to the Madrox era where Sunderland were just losing all of their players. Pretty much everyone went, barring Dan Neil, essentially, of that really talented youth group with Sam Greenwood, Lucas Stevenson, Joe Hugel, all of those players. But now Sunderland have a real chance of holding on to them and progressing them into the first team. And for me, that's like, we've got to be realistic about things. I think hopefully in my lifetime, Sunderland will have some form of success at the highest level. Like, I really hope they do. And obviously, I really hope they win promotion for the Championship. But for me, I get my sort of enjoyment from watching the young lads come through and, you know, coming into the first team and playing for Sunderland's first team, especially when the boyhood fans. That's the type of story that I really like, in the absence of something like massive, which probably isn't on the cards yet. Hopefully it will be in my lifetime one day. But yeah,